Hey there, Greg Nystrom. I'm back with another video. This is about the recent flooding in Libya. It's a little bit related to the last video I did about the Morocco earthquake, but I think it's okay. If you haven't seen that video, you can watch this one first and then go back and watch that one. I think you'll still get what you need out of this one. So it is interesting and sad, but also interesting that we had two disasters very close together in both in North Africa and countries that are relatively close to each other. So in the last video, I tied the Morocco earthquake into some Bible prophecy and into the events of 9/11. And I'm going to do the same thing with this Libya flooding. So there was this devastating flooding in Libya with great loss of life, unfortunately, and damage, especially in the town of Derna. And it was a result of Storm Daniel, which was a kind of a Mediterranean cyclone, a storm that has features of a hurricane, kind of with that motion of a hurricane, but it's not officially a hurricane. Sometimes called a metacane. And it's rare in the Mediterranean, and this one I think was one of the deadliest ones, if not one of the deadliest ones ever, for the flooding it caused, especially in Libya. Affected a few other countries first. Now, of course, the name Daniel has biblical implications because, it's the name of a book in the Bible. And that book happens to talk a lot about the end times and ties into the book of Revelation. And also the name Daniel means God is judge, so it can relate to judgment. And speaking in the book of Revelation, one of the things that was associated with this storm Daniel was something called an omega block. Now, in weather terms, that is something that happens when there's two low pressure systems and a high pressure system is able to form between them, and the isobars form in the shape of the Greek letter omega. That's why they call it an omega block. Well, obviously that has implications with the book of Revelation. Jesus said, "I am the Alpha and Omega," in the book of Revelation 4 times. He is the first and the last. Omega is the last letter of the Greek alphabet. Therefore, it's about, the second coming and the end times, and all that is related to this letter Omega. All right, moving on. So this storm hit the coast of Libya late on September 10th. Had a lot of rainfall associated with it. And what happened, it caused flooding. There was a wadi leading to the town of Derna in Libya, and a wadi is a dried up stream bed that sometimes they have water in based on the seasons of the year, sometimes they're dry. This one was dry. All that water filled that wadi and it rushed down into the town of Derna. And what happened was there was two dams that should have prevented that from happening, this kind of flooding. Both of them collapsed. And this water reached Derna around 3 a.m. local Libya time. And we know that because BBC has a video with a timestamp on it just before 3 a.m. of this water coming in to Derna. So this happened on September 11th then, this flooding in Derna in the wee hours of the morning. So now we have September 11th indicated. And it's interesting, we had two dams collapse, and on 9/11, the original 9/11, we had two towers collapse. So I find that an interesting connection there. Also interesting, if you take the time that this water hit Derna, around that time, 3 a.m., and you've got September 11th, and you take 3 times 11, it equals 33. We can find that elsewhere with this because the city of Derna is located at latitude 32.76, which rounds up to 33 degrees north latitude if you're going up to the nearest full degree. So there's another 33. And of course, another one with 9/11 is 9 times 11 equals 99, divided by 3 equals 33. But there's even another 33 associated with 9/11. And remember, this flooding happened on September 11th in Libya. In the last video, I said that the principal construction of the Twin Towers started in 1968 in August. Those towers were destroyed in September of 2001. That means they were destroyed a little over 33 years later. another 33. Well, it even goes further than this, because when I was looking this up and I came across headlines from many major news outlets giving the estimated death toll for the town of Derna from the flooding at 11,300. And that was because I believe an aid group that was associated with this, trying to help with this flooding, gave that number as an estimation. Obviously, it's just an estimation, and it's probably gone up since then. But it's interesting that this was plastered all over the news. This number, 11,300. And so again, we have an 11 and a 3. And 11 times 3 is 33. There we go again. And there's something else this ties into. Let's go to Revelation 11:3 and see what that talks about. And I will appoint my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy for 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. Period. This is talking about the 2 witnesses. This is the first mention of the 2 witnesses in the Bible, Revelation 11:3. So we had 11,300 deaths, estimated deaths was the number given. And it's talking about the 2 witnesses, and we were already talking about them with the 2 dams that collapsed on September or near September 11th, and tying them into the Twin Towers that collapsed on September 11th, and the number 11. And I went in the first video about the Morocco earthquake, I went over all the number 11s associated with the Twin Towers. But here, again, the 2 witnesses come up yet again in all this with this Libya flood. And of course, Israel is also on the Mediterranean, just like Libya and Morocco. And now we even have a kind of another Rosh Hashanah connection here, just like Morocco. In a way, in a manner of speaking. The first thing is that, of course, this flooding happened September 10th and 11th was the same week that Rosh Hashanah started on Friday at sundown. But there's even a really strange coincidence with some names here I want to go over. So we had Storm Daniel, right? That's the official name of that storm that caused this flooding in Libya. And again, just as I said, it's the same week as Rosh Hashanah, which is also called the Feast of Trumpets. So Storm Daniel and Feast of Trumpets. Well, do you remember these 2 people? Yeah, we have Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump. So we had Storm Daniel, Feast of Trumpets. Now we have Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump. Very similar in name, and I'm not worried about or concerned about the actual news story with the accusations and all that happened with that incident. I'm worried about not worrying about it. I'm focusing on the names and the prophetic implications. That this is a double implication of these names: Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump, Storm Daniel, Feast of Trumpets. It's a double. It's a confirmation. And the Feast of Trumpets also has to do with what? Well, it's prophetic of the rapture of the church. Daniel ties into the end times. Feast of Trumpet ties into the rapture. Storm Daniel, Feast of Trumpets, Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump, signs of the rapture and end times happening soon. I know that seems like a weird coincidence, but I literally have dozens and dozens of things like this in my book that I'm working on and almost finished and looking for a publisher for, as I said in the last video. I have so many things like this that happen so often, there's no way you can chalk it all up to coincidence. You start to think this is the way God operates with things, tying things in with numbers and names and other details of events, because it happens over and over, and I have so many examples of that, and that's why I'm really so anxious to get this book published and get it out sometime next year, because I think it will be a great testament to the signs that God is doing in our world and has been doing, especially over the last few decades, and maybe even going back farther than that. So okay, so that's that. Now, of course, again, my hearts and prayers go out to the people of Libya. They've suffered, many deaths and devastation in cities, being destruction in cities, and I know there's aid groups working now. Now Libya. It's a very divided country politically ever since Gaddafi, the leader of that country, is no longer there. They've been in some turmoil politically. I don't know what the situation is about trying to get aid to people if they're not letting everybody in. Like I said in the last video, I talked about, I don't even know if Samaritan's Purse was able to go to Morocco. I think Operation Blessing was. I think the American Red Cross was. But, I mean, those are good organizations to support. Okay, but that's it for now, so I will see you next time.